Welcome to SVG-TV News for Tuesday, October 12th, 2021. I am Rochelle Batiste with the details. Virgin Atlantic Airline will be making its inaugural flight to St. Vincent and the Grenadines tomorrow, Wednesday, October 13, 2021. A small ceremony is planned to welcome the passengers and Virgin Atlantic crew at the Argyle International Airport. Chief Executive Officer of the SVG Tourism Authority, Glenn Beach, told SVG-TV News today that despite the delays from last year, they are pleased that Virgin Atlantic will finally make its inaugural flight to SVG tomorrow, touching down at the Argyle International Airport around 3:30 p.m.
It's made it a bit more difficult. Honestly speaking, we weren't planning on doing much. First thing, I know we're used to the water gun salute. Virgin doesn't allow that with their planes, which is okay. So that won't be happening. But we will be having a small press conference. A representative from Virgin will be coming in on that flight. We're having a small press conference when the flight arrives, where the minister will speak, the representative from Virgin, and possibly the Honorable Prime Minister. We have some giveaways for the people of Vincentians arriving on that flight. So it'll be short but sweet, get to the point, because obviously the Virgin representative has to go back on the flight. I think they arrive sometime like at 3:25 and they leave at 6:30. So there's not a lot of time in between to really get into much. And don't forget, we have protocols that we have to follow also to make sure that everybody is good.
Beats said that more than 100 passengers are expected on the inaugural flight, which include Vincentians and 60 outbound passengers.
Stands, I think we are at 112 Vincentians coming in on that, well, not Vincentians, 112 passengers coming in on that flight. The plane is a A330-300, which has a capacity, I think, of somewhere around 268, so almost half the flight coming in, and I think we have just above 60 going out. So not bad for the first flight. I think obviously if we didn't have the pandemic in place, we would have probably had a lot more people on the flight, but it's a start, and so far the load factor for the rest of the year is not looking too bad. We have some work to do in the United Kingdom, but we're looking okay so far with Virgin.
The Tourism Authority CEO said that it has been close to a decade that negotiations have been taking place with Virgin Atlantic long before AIA opened, noting that the investment in the international airport is now paying off.
In terms of since AIA opened, that it was going to be something big for us. Obviously, the opening of AIA was one part of it. Access has always been our major problem as a tourism destination. With the construction of AIA, that was solved to a certain extent. But attracting the airlines has been a big part of it. Even before AIA was completed, we had been speaking to these airlines for years. We've been speaking to Virgin for almost 8 years, probably around more closer to 10 years about coming in. And so the direct access to St. Vincent and the Grenadines is big. People they want to get to their destination as quickly as possible and with as hassle-free as possible. So if you're coming from Heathrow to Barbados, don't have to get off the flight. Your luggage doesn't have to come off the flight. You don't have to get off, go clear immigration and then go back round through immigration again and customs to deal with all of that.
And with the commencement of operation of Virgin Atlantic Airlines twice weekly service out of the United Kingdom to the Argyle International Airport, persons are being reminded of the travel protocols at the various airports on island. A news release from the Airport Authority said this is in keeping with the COVID-19 safety measures outlined by the Ministry of Health and the Environment for the protection of staff and passengers at all airports throughout the island. The precautionary guidelines are as follows. Persons entering airport terminal buildings must wear a mask or face covering. Say goodbye to friends and family outside the terminal building to avoid crowding the departure check-in lounge. Practice physical distancing where possible. Regularly and thoroughly sanitize your hands with an alcohol-based hand rub or wash hands with soap and water. And arriving passengers are required to take an airport authorized taxi when leaving the airport. In other news, a consortium of leading banks in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union announced today that it has entered into a definitive agreement to acquire the branches and banking operations of CIBC First Caribbean in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dominica, Grenada, and St. Kitts and Nevis. A news release said the agreement executed today, Tuesday, October 12th, 2021, is subject to regulatory approval and customary closing conditions. The release said consortium lead and managing director of the Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines Limited, Derry Williams, asserted that the acquisition by the consortium represents a significant development in the evolution of the banking system of the ECCU, and that once approved by the regulators, they are very confident that it will lay the basis for further enhanced value creation in these economies and greater prosperity for the society. The 4 members of the consortium are the National Bank of Dominica Limited, Grenada Cooperative Bank Limited, St. Kitts and Nevis and Anguilla National Bank Limited, and the Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines Limited, the agent of the consortium. The acquisition is said to have expanded the consortium's loan base by more than 600 million EC dollars net, the deposit portfolio by 1.5 billion EC dollars, and provides the additional scale to better service the consortium's respective communities and contribute to the region's economic and social advancement. The consortium said it looks forward to working with CIBC First Caribbean to finalize the transaction over the coming months, with both working diligently to ensure the transition is seamless for all stakeholders. The news release further noted that until regulatory approvals are obtained and the transaction closes, operations at all institutions will continue as they currently do. The consortium members said they are committed to recruiting staff of CIBC First Caribbean as required to maintain and even improve the level and quality of service that CIBC First Caribbean customers are accustomed to. The consortium is being advised by Deloitte & Touche in Barbados, lead advisor led by Raymond Haynes, Director Financial Advisory, and Lex Caribbean, lead legal advisor led by Mary Mahabird, senior partner. A team from Invest SVG is currently in Dubai, showcasing St. Vincent and the Grenadines to the world at Dubai Expo, which opened this month, with more than 150 countries participating in the showcase over the next 6 months. The special day for St. Vincent and the Grenadines was on October 21st, and Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves was slated to make a presentation there. However, on radio on Sunday, PM Gonsalves said he would not be able to make the trip at such time.
I was to go to for about a week in the United Arab Emirates. It was the 3rd week of this month, because for the 21st of October was going to be the big day for us with our Expo in Dubai, you know, the World Expo. I had to sadly tell them, and my team is disappointed, that I can't go. And we put the date to a date in February the 14th. It happens that on that day, on February the 14th, we'll have to share that day with Cuba.
Prime Minister Gonsalves said that he has had to make other international cancellation as he feels the need to be in country to help with administration, noting that St. Vincent and the Grenadines is facing some challenging times.
Because I can't be away for a long period of time. I am not going to be able to go to the Conference of Parties for the Climate Change Conference under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change in Scotland in November. Carlos James is going because it would mean me to be away for about a week. It has to be something very special because people have to be on the ground.
SVG's theme for the Expo is 32 Island and Keys, where diverse opportunities await. And as SVG enters the wettest months of the year with continuous rainfall from last weekend, Director of the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO, Michelle Forbes, is again making an appeal for persons, especially residents of the red and orange zones, to stay away from river valleys, which still poses a threat to life and limb. On radio yesterday, Forbes noted that areas of particular concern have been mapped out following the explosive eruption of La Soufrière volcano in April.
Those areas also that have been identified through the assessment by the Ministry of by the Physical Planning Department is where also that you should not return to following the La Soufrière eruption on the Lahars. People need to pay attention because the Lahars, you can be there, it may be dry down in Kingstown, but in the mountains you may have heavy rainfall. And persons don't recognize that, and when that heavy rainfall, the flood waters come rushing down and might even catch you off guard. So you have to be extremely vigilant and careful. You know the areas that are flooded. Once you see there's a flood happening in that area, you avoid it.
The NEMO director said Lahars or mudflows will continue for some time, noting that there are still more than 50 feet of ash yet to come down from the summit of the volcano.
Because as the scientists keep saying, we are going to be living with these mud flows and Lahars for some time until the debris in the mountains have come down. And I can tell you, I've seen the debris in the mountains. We have sometimes 40 to 60 feet of material still in some of the gullies, especially on the leeward side. The good thing about the leeward side, you don't have any settlement where the Lahars come down, but on the windward side you do. So there's still a lot of debris, a lot of rocks, especially in the upper areas to actually come down if you see it from an aerial view. So there's quite a bit of material still to come down, and until all of that material comes down over the next year or two or maybe more, we will continue to have the Lahars and the mud flows coming through those communities.
Last weekend, between 3 to 4 inches of rainfall was recorded at the various weather stations from a trough system. Desiree Neverson-Jack of the SVG Met Services told SVGTV News yesterday that another disturbance is headed our way and is expected to affect the island by midweek. As of today, Tuesday, October 12, 2021, the molecular lab unit has temporarily stopped processing PCR samples for travelers. This is according to Chief Lab Technician Elliot Samuel, who on NBC Radio today said that the processing of public samples is being prioritized at this time to help reduce the backlog at the molecular lab.
We are about 2,000 tests behind. Our priority has to be given to dealing with the public health cases, the persons who are suspect cases, probable cases, contacts. So we really have to, if we want to get a better grasp of what is happening and to allow the lab to provide the information for the public health team to respond, to contact trace and to allow them to at least try to break transmission of what is happening now, we have to focus on the public health cases. So a decision was taken by the cabinet yesterday to put a hold on the testing for travel purposes. It's not going to be available because we do have a very strong laboratory network in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and we have basically transferred that testing responsibility onto our private sector. So as of today, persons who are requiring a test for travel purposes can now access those antigen and NAT testing through the private laboratories.
The chief lab technologist said selected exit screening will still be done at the molecular lab unit and explain who will qualify for the service.
The molecular lab will continue in a sense to try to offer exit screen testing, but we are going to be doing so with a selected group of persons. So persons who have medical travel, farm workers who have to travel, people who are on scholarships, persons who are within, like, let's just say, persons from Sandals who have bilateral agreements with the government and stuff like that. We are going to still be offering these testing for that selected group, but the wider public is encouraged to seek exit screening through the private laboratories.
Samuel said payments made for PCR tests before today, Tuesday, October 12th, will be processed through the government lab, while listing some of the private labs that will now do PCR testing.
So persons who have already paid for an exit screen test, that payment will be honored up to yesterday. So anybody who have paid for an exit screen test up to yesterday, those tests will still be done. That agreement will still be honored. But from today going forward, any individual in the public who is requiring a test for travel is now advised to get it done through the private sector. We have several private laboratories here. I know Caribbean Reference Laboratory offer testing for COVID-19. I know Sigma Medical Laboratory also offer testing for COVID-19, so you can access these two laboratories.
Some vendors plying their trade at the bus terminal at Little Tokyo in capital Kingston continue to feel the economic pressure of the COVID-19 pandemic, even more so with the recent spike in cases. Noting that business has been very bad, some of the vendors told SVG-TV News that despite the challenges, they still have to push through as they have their families to maintain.
The economy real bad. It affects us because sales are real slow and everything like that. It's real slow.
Okay, and what are you doing to protect yourself?
Well, I just steam myself when I get home at night, drink hot tea, and them things like that.
Okay.
Difficult to make a sale right now. The only thing like $1 is like a Friday evening, like after 4 so, you can make $1. Otherwise, things rough right now.
Okay, so what you want to encourage people out there?
To wash their hands properly, territory their hand and keep paper the face mask.
Well, the COVID really impact our business because of less people coming in town. That's number one. And when people come by, much people don't come by your food place and eat again because if we put our masks, more people staying home at this time. Well, you have to wear your mask. That's number one. Sanitize your hand, like when people give you money, you sanitize your hand. And when people come by food place, you tell them put on the mask. Actually, we ain't take the vaccine yet, but it's a possibility because a lot of people getting COVID, a lot of people just dying like that. So in the future, we take the vaccine, but right about now, it's real tough. It's tight.
Okay.
And it's tight for a lot of business around because normally a lot of more people used to be in town like shopping, but people refraining themselves from coming in town. A lot of people are not coming in town because of the COVID-19. And a lot of people have to stay home with their children because of online teaching. So they can't come in town. And that is a part of the COVID-19 too. Because you have to stay home to see about the children then because school is not keeping. So that's all about it right now, but it's real tight. But at least you have to give thanks because we're still making a little dollar so we could feed our family. And the government is shut down the country at least. So we still could come out and make a little dollar.
Osborne Chambers, also known as Foodman, is one of the vendors who were asked by the government to remove their stall from the seawall at Little Tokyo and have been compensated accordingly. Chambers told our news team that he was given some time to ply his trade given the COVID-19 situation, and he is very grateful for the extra time given.
And I'm selling phone now for 15 years. I used to sell on the reclamation side one day, but they move us. So I just have a little pull in here. I know how long I will be here for. But it's not going to bad either.
Okay.
So I have to give the government a little thanks to that because at least I still have a little space I could pull in and sell food and could buy my family.
Okay.
So I appreciate it.
All right.
And you have a blessing. You take care.
Yeah, thank you.
Recent statistics have shown that there has been an increase in reported cases of domestic and gender-based violence here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This is according to Administrative Officer in the Ministry of National Mobilization, Philcal Jeffers, who on the Mobilization Express live series on VC3 last evening said the ministry is strategically launching comprehensive media campaigns to sensitize the general public on how to combat these social ills.
There have been 1,399 reported cases of domestic violence throughout St. Vincent and the Grenadines between January of 2012 and April of 2020. There were 2 reported cases in 2010, 2 in 2011, 51 in 2012, 173 in 2013, 144 in 2014, 36 in 2015, 37 in 2016, 371 in 2017, 273 in 2018, 191 in 2019, and 119 in 2020. 324 of these cases were from the Eastern District Division. These are the police divisions. And that division is from Connery to Owia. 352 from the South Central, which is Babu, to Calico and includes Mesopotamia. 341 were in the Central Kingstown District, that is Kingstown to Kittles. 94 from the Southwestern Division, that's Vermont to Barley. 74 were from the Northwestern, so that's Spring Village to Chateaubelair. And 211 were from the Grenadines.
Jeffers said of the recent domestic and gender-based violence reports, over 400 of the victims were males.
With regards to the victims of these crimes, 416 were males, 972 were females, and 8 persons did not state whether they are male or female. 218 were juveniles. In terms of educational levels, we have persons who have received primary education. They were 175. And then we have persons who went on to attain secondary education were 22, and 5 persons with tertiary. All right? And of all of those statistics that we listed earlier, 1,186 did not state their educational attainment. I'll save the bit for a little later, but ladies and gentlemen, I think that's a mouthful.
Corporal of Police with the Sexual Offences Unit of the Royal St. Vincent and Grenadines Police Force, Nicola Williams-Brown, said that when they look at the statistics of domestic and gender-based violence in SVG, the situation is alarming. Williams-Brown said what is even more troubling is that after reports have been made, most of the victims will return to the police, stating that they do not wish any further police or court action.
To consider here is their self-worth. And I would have discovered over the years that a lot of people do not have any self-worth, because when you don't have any self-worth, you accept anything and you stand for nothing. And if you stand for nothing, you will fall for anything. And that is one of the problems we have in our society. Too many persons have been abused domestically, whether it be boyfriend and girlfriend, children and parents. And at the end of the day, when the police would have worked hard to make an arrest, there are many persons who will come forward and say that, oh, I don't want anything, he's my husband, he's my boyfriend, I have my children to look after. But that is where it gives leeway for these matters to escalate.
The police corporal noted that the decision taken by some to withdraw their case has cost several other persons their lives.
A repeating process where persons have been abused once because of the fact that they dropped the matters in court or they asked the police not to continue, they have been repeatedly abused. And the society, not knowing the fact, you will hear it all the time, oh, the police didn't do anything, the police didn't do this, and the police didn't do that.
Williams-Brown gave the assurance that the police will do their best to ensure the safety of all citizens. However, she noted that they cannot do their job without the victims' testimonies.
The time, if not all the time, will intercede in these matters, but because we are a country of laws, we have to abide by the laws. The police walk by the laws. And if a complainant who is a victim say that they doesn't want any further police action, whether it be before the police or before the magistrate, there is nothing much that can be done. The magistrate is there, and then the matters will have to be withdrawn. So many of the times when we are blamed, when the court system is blamed, it is not true. As I said before, people are to know their self-worth. It is not because you are in poverty means that you must accept abused. That is not acceptable. You have to stand up for what is right. And the police officer is there to work along with all the stakeholders, and we do, but it's up to the victims, as I said, at the end of the day, whether or not they want these matters to come to an end, whether or not they want to stop the abuse.
In more police-related news now, we hear that an investigation has been launched into a report of burglary made by a 52-year-old female preschool teacher of Glen against some unknown person or persons. The assailant or assailants reportedly entered the Church of the Nazarene in Arnesville as a trespasser and stole a quantity of items valued at $5,035, the property of the church. The incident is said to have occurred between October 10th and 11th at Arnesville. The police have also launched an investigation into another report of arson made by a 27-year-old chauffeur of Lomans Leeward against some unknown person or persons. The police say the assailant or assailants without lawful excuse allegedly destroyed the interior of motor vehicle AH435 valued at 12,000 EC dollars by setting it on fire at Lomans Leeward between October 7th and 8th. On Monday, the police reported that they have launched an investigation into a report of arson made by a 37-year-old chauffeur of Calder against some unknown person or persons. The police say the assailant or assailants without lawful excuse allegedly destroyed one Nissan motor vehicle valued unknown by setting it on fire at Calder on February 21st this year. Persons with information that can assist with these investigations are asked to contact the Deputy Commissioner at telephone number 45712467, the officer in charge of the Criminal Investigations Department at telephone number 4561810, or any police station or police officer you are comfortable with. All information, the police say, will be treated confidentially.